All right, let's begin. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Traxo Office Hours webinar. I am Matt Griffin. I am the Chief Product Information Officer at Traxo, and I'm based in Dallas, Texas. You may have been expecting Justin Morris to lead this discussion. He is a little under the weather today, so I am filling in. He and Lacey, our head of marketing, who's also on the call. They have prepared an excellent agenda for today, along with our panelists here. So I'm going to do my best to do best job to present today's event. From our conversations at Traxo with dozens of corporate travel managers, we hear that many are taking this slow time in travel during COVID to review and assess their overall travel programs. Their objective is to make sure that they are as optimized as possible before travelers get back out on the road in significant numbers. And many recognize that this is going to happen before they know it. And so they better prepare now. And this is something we're hearing a lot, that they are expecting a lot of growth at the beginning of next year. And they're going to find out about it a few months after it's already begun. So like many of you attending this webinar, one area of focus that we hear a lot is focus on reducing spend. Common tactics have been to make changes to travel policy for things like training, where remote approaches can save significant dollars versus continuing to fly employees to destinations and take a class in person. But once you get past those areas of low-hanging fruit, that's when it gets more difficult to reduce spend. There are only so many categories of travel that you can cut without impacting the operations of your company. And so buyers have to transition to be more precise in their approach to reducing spend. In our view, the key to making the right decisions at this point really rely on having good and thorough booking data. At Traxo, we believe all buyers have significant savings opportunities when they combine rich booking data about their travel program with a specific focus on the area of price assurance, our topic for today. So when we think about price assurance, we think of it as a combination of three things. One, negotiating the best rates and fares with your supplier partners. Two, auditing what travelers are spending to ensure that the commitments made among your supplier partners from the RFP process are actually met. And then three, recognizing that prices fluctuate before the start of a trip. And then capitalizing on those post-booking price drops can yield even further savings. So in the past, using these price assurance strategies was a laborious process, and we'll talk with our guest, Jen, about that experience in the past. It's been a laborious process, but now it's not such a challenge. Innovative companies are here to guide you through each of these components of price assurance, so you can meet your program savings goals. Since Traxo focuses on capturing booking data about all of your organization's bookings, especially those difficult to get non-TMC bookings, it's a natural fit for us to partner with price assurance providers to enable each of them to scale up their savings that they can deliver to customers like you. One goal is to make using any of these partners, like our guest today from Smart Hotel Rate, as easy and as fast as possible, not just for your agency bookings, but for all of your company's bookings. And that's definitely a topic we'll cover today. In past webinars, we've highlighted a few of these partners. You likely know of TripBam from the reshopping capabilities, and BTP Automation. It's a new service from travel industry veterans that really bring automation to the RFP process for much better outcomes. But today we're featuring our partner, Smart Hotel Rate. They're an innovative company focused on two components of price assurance: rate auditing to ensure trust in the supplier-company relationship, and also using their insights to empower customers to negotiate optimal rates. A lot of amazing things you can do with data, and they are definitely experts in that. But when it comes down to it, what is the point of spending all the time that you do and energy on going through an RFP process? And this is something that we covered a lot in our kind of call prep. What's the point of doing all that if you never verify that your negotiator rates get implemented? Excellent, cool. So let's move on. Just for a few words about Traxo. For those of you not too familiar with Traxo, and I'll be as brief as possible, we are leaders in corporate travel data capture and pre-trip travel auditing. Medium-sized companies and large enterprises use Traxo to eliminate their booking travel blind spots, also known as booking leakage, by automatically aggregating all corporate travel activity booked through both TMC and non-TMC sources. So all your data is captured immediately after booking in real time and stored in one single place. If you'd like to learn more about Traxo and how we can help your travel program, contact us today at traxo.com. And then before we jump in, we just have a couple of housekeeping rules and then we'll scoot on into the program. We are recording this webinar. And yes, we are recording this webinar, I've confirmed that. This enables each of you to view it again. And then we also encourage you to share this important information with your colleagues. This recording will soon be available at our Traxo Resource Center from our website. And there you can also find recordings of our past webinar events. Finally, our Q&A feature is now open. When you signed up for this event, you may have had some questions related to price assurance and smart hotel rate, or even our guest, Jen. So we encourage everyone to ask questions. You can use the Q&A functionality. You can use the chat functionality. I know our guest, Deborah Cole, she's found the chat functionality, so that's great to see. But feel free to ask a question at any time throughout the program. We'll either get to it during the program or at the end of the event today. And then to get everyone used to using this functionality today, I'd like for everyone just to briefly describe what image is on your phone's background, provided that it's safe to share, it's safe for work. So please just type in either in the Q&A functionality or the chat facility what image is on your background. I'll share mine. Mine is, hopefully that's coming through. Mine is a menu from a restaurant here in Dallas called Taco Diner. Sound is somewhat low. Okay, let me see what we can do about that. So Taco Diner is a Mexican restaurant. This is the restaurant that my wife and I went to on our first date. So there's a little bit of sentimental aspect in there. So I'm sure you're all going, oh. So we got a lovely photo of a lovely wife at our wedding, my best friend, standard graphic, of course. There's some good graphics on phones. Cats, that's wonderful. Excellent, cool. Lots of pictures about family, that's great. And as we kind of get into the holiday season, that's good to kind of think about family. So excellent, so let's get on going. And then I've got one more mention to share. By the way, here's the ground rules. So we also have a webinar that we are launching today, and Lacey, keep me honest about that. But I want to make sure that you knew about this webinar. This is our ebook, sorry. This is an ebook focused on, you guessed it, price assurance. This is kind of the conclusion of the webinar events that we've been doing with partners over the last few months. And it kind of goes into detail about price assurance, a little more information about the principal vendors, how they can help you, and how they can implement savings programs at your company. So visit this link here. And yes, Eva is linked in the chat. Thank you, Lacey. And download the ebook. We'll probably also be sending some reminders about the ebook. Okay, that's 10 minutes. That's great. We're doing great on time. So let's get into the program. Let's meet our panelists. So we've got two great panelists joining us today. We have Jennifer Stanke. Jennifer is a veteran travel manager. You can see she's global head of travel with PPD. She has a career that spans over 34 years of in the corporate travel industry. She's currently the head of global travel for PPD, and she's very active in the travel industry, writing a monthly feature for Business Travel Executive magazine and serving on multiple industry committees and boards, including TAMS, the BTE think tank, and previously sat on the boards of the GBTA, boards of GBTA. So Jen, thank you so much for joining us today. We are happy you're here. And then Michael Jacques. So Michael is an industry veteran with experience of spending 5 decades. Michael started working when he was 2 years old. So he's worked with travel products, travel providers, booking, distribution, expense, you name it. He's been working in that part of the travel business, including front end and back office. He's held senior business development roles in the industry, including at Boeing, Amadeus, Farelogix, Data Basics, EXL, and Tramada. And he's also helped startups. So startups like Smart Hotel Rate, including Tripware, Lumo, and definitely Smart Hotel Rate. So at Smart Hotel Rate, he is the head of business development and partnerships. And he also served as the former co-chair of GBTA's Technology Committee. So please join me, everyone, in welcoming Michael to the webinar as well. So thank you for each of you for joining us today. I'm excited about the topic we're going to cover, and we have a bunch of people joining this event from all around the world who are excited as well. So let us begin. I'm going to turn my screen share off, and let's get going. So we've got a few areas that we wanted to cover, but we wanted to kind of begin by just talking about price assurance and understanding your negotiated rates. And I thought it would be great to begin with what's the experience of a buyer, of a corporate travel manager, and both kind of thinking about the past and the experience now. And Jen is a great person that has a lot of expertise. And so I thought we'd begin with you, as Jen, as a buyer. Can you share how you have traditionally tackled auditing rates, either at your current company or at past companies?
Sure. So first of all, Matt, thanks for having me, and thanks to Traxo for bringing this great content, I think, into the marketplace. It's super important. But most importantly is what's on my screen's background, and that is my brand new granddaughter who's 7 months old. And so I'm going to do that grandma call out thing and show you that cutie patooties picture. So anyway,
little pumpkin,
so
love it.
My little pumpkin. So anyway, again, thanks for having me. So this is a super important topic. And the reason it's so important is that as buyers, we spend a lot of time working through this arduous RFP process, and we go through multiple rounds of negotiations when it comes to, getting our negotiated hotel program up and running, right? And then we're like, okay, great, look at all that great work we did. So now what, right? How do we actually know that our rates are actually being presented to our travelers? And so historically, what we've done is some traditional rate audits. You may get, and depending on if you're doing the sourcing yourself and you have your own tools to do that, or if you're outsourcing it to your TMC or to a third-party consulting firm, whoever it might be, that's sort of managing that process for you, someone will probably offer or execute on some sort of rate audit for you. And this is, for me right now, it's like, let's look at our 300 hotels and check and make sure the rates are in there at any given, date intervals, right? And we might do that twice a year. Well, even if you did it 3 times a year, you could have 12 weeks between an audit where a rate has dropped out, where you're not getting that rate, and your travelers aren't being presented with the right data. And so it becomes very complicated in that, you just don't have nearly as much accurate data at your fingertips when it comes to the hotel rates you negotiated. And it's not just important that we have that information and we present it to our travelers and we book those rates and get all the benefits that we do through our negotiations, but I think it's also really important for the TMC and the hoteliers to understand that that rate accuracy and the assurance is super important, right? Because it's going to better that longer term relationship between me and my hotel suppliers. It's also going to drive the value proposition from the TMC. And so we need, the industry as a whole is to say, if we're going to do this process, right? If we're going to go through this RFP and we're going to spend all this time and money and energy to get these rates, we sure as heck better be able to get them when they're presented to our travelers, right? And we need to have that assurance. And so, I think that historically it's been a manual process or some automation around it, but it is not that live and in-person kind of auditing that we really truly need. And I think that's kind of what brought us here today, is how do we get that and how do we solve for that problem in the industry?
I think you brought up a really good point of the frequency that many buyers just have the means and have the time to spend in checking rates. Michael, do you have anything to kind of share in your experience in conversations with buyers on how frequently what is their typical process that they go through to maintain oversight?
Yeah, let me tackle it this way in terms of trying to simplify what we do and why we do it, right? So there's really 3 pillars, and I think Jen has touched on some of them in terms of what we do with Smart Hotel Rate. So one is, guaranteeing that those rates that you've worked so hard, whether it's procurement, whether it's your team on your travel manager or the hotel sourcing team has come up with, whether it's 25 or 250 negotiated rates. How do you get to assurance or guaranteeing that those rates are being used, whether they're booked through your TMC, whether they're booked through offline or with our partner at Traxo collecting that data. So it's guaranteeing the negotiated rates actually are enabled, and then reducing or eliminating that leakage that we spoke of, and then having the live time analytics. I'm not necessarily a fan of the word audit, because to me that means, like the IRS or taxes or something crazy, but or go looking backwards, right? I'd rather look at the data live and have actionable data. So that kind of leads into the why we do it, right? There's so many legacy methodologies that need to be challenged, and I think Jen touched on this in terms of, looking at new ways to do things, in terms of, getting away from the spreadsheets. I've talked to some buyers recently, and they want to, eliminate the RFP process. So if you have a program, especially in a post-COVID environment, it's going to be very difficult to project, what you did in 2019 or 2018. Forget about it, right? Moving forward, you're really going to have something that's dynamic, something that's based on live data, and that's what we're all about. And the other is, who do we serve? So obviously we serve the traveler, the end user who actually goes to stay in the hotel, but sort of behind the scenes, our core customer is finding those savings for the corporation, right? They've got a team that has put together the negotiated rate program, or they've outsourced it to their TMC partner, to a consultant, right? So, or, they're using technology like Lanyon. But from my observation, and, I should remind everybody, our company, Smart Hotel Rate's been around for 36 months or so, right around 3 years. And 22 of those months have been in this, terrible COVID environment. So we're really well positioned to work with travel managers, looking forward in terms of deploying new methodology and not relying on these spreadsheets that, are sitting at the TMC and, at the GDS where the rates are loaded correctly or not. I mean, it's just problematic and leads to sort of a mess. So
many spreadsheets.
Focus on guaranteeing the corporate rate, so you meet your thresholds, so you keep your contracts and you have great relationships with your hotel suppliers, and reduce and eliminate that leakage. In our case, partner with Traxo, of course. And then the analytics, again, I'm not going to use that AUDIT word. It's live data, so you can have actionable data. So the idea is to correct that rate before the guest checks in, or have the data to go back to the hotel and say, how should I say, hotels might have different inventories, right? So there's always two elements at play here. You have the pricing, or the price or the negotiated rate, and you have availability. Those don't always meet.
Yeah. I think that's an excellent point about that both you and Jen made around the relationship, and that this oversight, I'll use that word instead of the other A word, this oversight is definitely benefits the buyer, but it also benefits the hotelier, because they spent all this time too in the RFP process, and they want you to be happy, and they want you to renew. And I think that is an important part of what y'all do, is the relationship, empower the relationship to grow between a buyer and a supplier.
Matt, let me make a quick comment to that. At the recent GBTA conference, which some of the good folks at Traxo were there, obviously, and it was sort of good to go live to a meeting and get back to business travel. But beyond that, I did have the occasion to speak to a couple of hotel executives, right? So I won't name the major chains, but there's two that come to mind. And at the end of the day, they want their corporate buyers, the Jennifer Steinke's and those buyers that are on the phone, or the consultants that put together the hotel programs for their corporate customers, or the TMC. They want everybody in that chain to make sure that the traveler gets their corporate rate that they deserve. But things happen differently at the hotel. I'm going to pick on the room revenue manager, right, where he or she has an obligation to get the best rate for that hotel property because they're owned by a real estate investment trust. There's some other power that they need to send their numbers in every, so I think it's, it is about relationship and, making certain that you are attaining your guaranteed corporate rate. So it's assurance plus.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. It's a little more complicated, and the person that you're negotiating with across the table, they might not have complete control to ensure that your rates are always adhered to. So it's important to have a partner like Smart Hotel Rate to be your provider, be your partner to help you maintain that oversight and look at every single booking and make sure that it's conforming to your expectations, and not just checking, every half year for a quick audit in a manual way. I can't imagine how long that takes, Jen, to grind through that. So I thought it was important to share, Michael, what is the process? And you shared a little bit of how Smart Hotel Rate works, but can you walk us through like a sample scenario of like telling a story of Smart Hotel Rate, and just for one booking, for example, our guests, our attendees might have a question about how it works.
Yeah. So traditionally, if all things go according to plan, I think a generic program you're going to have. Well, first of all, from our perspective, a Smart Hotel Rate, there's the contract, and then there's the bookings that come in. So let me extrapolate on that a little further. So it's not that complex, right? You typically have an online booking tool, you have a TMC, you have the partner, whoever negotiated, or the team in procurement or a travel manager who has negotiated the rates. So those parties have to come together first. All right. So a lot of assumptions are being made here. Are the rates loaded properly, or spreadsheets? How should I say, data getting lost or changed differently. And then when it comes to us, we've applied some technology to sort of clean that up, right? So we're wanting to manage that. That's the analytics that's running in live time. So once it's booked, that data comes to us. Our preference in a modern world, it is soon to be 2021, everybody. So it's API. We're in an API world, right? But not everybody's in an API world yet. So we're consuming that traditional GDS data, massaging it so we can work with it in live time. There's no secret that there are new providers coming. TMCs are upgrading their technology. So I'm very optimistic and bullish on how TMCs are going to work with their partners in the future in an API world. But enough on that. Let's pretend I'm Mike the traveler and I'm checking in the hotel. I was at an event last week, and the example I used time and time again, if I show up at the Marriott and I have a $349 rate, but my hotel negotiated rates $199, what good is that in a rate audit or a use case after the fact? You want to have the ability of your TMC or the travel manager and procurement, someone needs to be notified that that rate needs to be changed, or why didn't they get it? Did they book a concierge floor? Is this person a VIP and they get to stay there? I think Jen probably has better examples in terms of how it can be deployed and what the user experience is like. So I'm kind of a little long-winded here on the process, but it's
Jen, kind of how would you describe it from the standpoint, or how do you describe it to your travelers in the experience?
In all honesty, I don't have to describe anything to my travelers, right?
Yeah.
So there's an expectation that you adhere to our travel program, right? And when there are, and we have certain negotiated properties, and we also have city caps, right? So we have a combination. If you're staying in a city where we have a negotiated property, you're supposed to stay there. Here's the challenge, right? We do all the RFP, we get the rates loaded, and something happens. Now, whether it's magical little elves in the background speaking in the holiday season, or little minions that make bad things happen, gremlins that make like rates disappear, or preferencing of certain rates, right? So if you have a complex program where you have consortium rates, you have negotiated rates, your TMC may have rates, and how those get preferenced in the booking tool or in the sales process opens up the opportunity for your rates to not be visible to your travelers, or some biasing or preferencing happening that then presents something different to your travelers that may not be your contracted negotiated rate. And so what happens is, through Smart Hotel Rate, at the point of sale, the time of booking, when that traveler makes that reservation, if it's not at our contracted rate, because Smart Hotel Rate is storing all of the contracts in their system, and the booking comes in, it's saying, oh, Jennifer just booked this hotel rate at $237 a night. Your contracted rate is $199 a night, and it throws an alert. And then it's super easy to operationalize and say, all right, I just, we run a CTD, so a TMC could do the same thing. I'm running my own little mini TMC in my corporation, but can easily say, you know what, check these rates and let's get in front of the error or mishap or whatever, gremlin, whatever it is. And let's proactively look at that booking and change it to our corporate rate if all things are appropriate, right? So you're not going to change every single thing. Michael alluded to VIPs that maybe get to stay in a suite, or there are some circumstances where we may say, you know what, we're not going to change that, but it's still important to take a quick look at it. And so then we track all of those savings. So every time we're making changes or not making a change to a rate, we're tracking that so that I can actually report on it and talk about it with my suppliers and talk about it with the likes of Michael and the other folks at Smart Hotel Rate. So, it's not a one size fits all. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed is the ability to say, these are the things that are important to me as a buyer in my hotel program. How does Smart Hotel Rate help solve that problem? And I always look at anything that comes into the marketplace, and I love innovation and technology. There's two things I'm going to ask. One, is it solving a problem? And two, is it saving me money? And in all honesty, Smart Hotel Rate does both of those things for me. And so that's why it's been such an important part of it. The process is easy. It's not complicated. It's not this like, oh, it's going to take us, 12 months to get this up and running. It's not. And none of us, no buyers have the bandwidth for that.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. Would you mind sharing what was your experience like with rolling out Smart Hotel Rate and kind of the steps?
It's funny because you learn a lot about your hotel program when you're like, hey, let me, talk about all of our contracts and all the different rates. So we use a third-party technology. We do the sourcing ourselves in-house. Most of the other TMCs are consulting. They're doing some of their third-party, software, probably like a Lanyon or Smart Hotel Rate RFP, whatever, Sabre, I mean. But so we do the export and we provide that contract detail to Smart Hotel Rate, and they upload that information. We found a lot of things. There was a lot of missing data in there that they actually needed, like, oh, is that really what that rate is? Or, there was some kind of, I don't know, massaging and working through that data to make sure that it was correct, right? So that was very enlightening. I think people take for granted that, yeah, I'm going to send these files and I'm going to send the rate loading instructions to, our hotels, and everything's going to be, rainbows and unicorns. And that's not the case at all. So that was very insightful. After that, we work through the GDS. So then it happens, right? It just literally starts happening. The bookings are coming in. It's being compared to the contract. The alerts are being had. I can go out to the dashboard. I can look at the alerts. I get them via email. It's just simple. It's not an arduous process. And I think it's the benefits for the little bit of time and effort I had to put into it far exceed a few days of my time and just a little bit of going back and forth on the fact that the data was incorrect in the first place. So
Yeah.
Simple.
Michael, is that kind of the typical experience with customers, or do you want to share?
Yeah. So to be totally transparent, I've been with the company for like 4 weeks, so it's not like I've seen 4 or 5 implementations here at the last month of the year. But what I do know is, from our perspective, we can, once we consume the data, and as you know, massage the data, cleansing the data, preparing it, is a matter of, you know, if it's 250 hotels or 1,000 hotels or 25 hotels, you know, it could be anywhere from a day to 2 days. But real quickly is my point, that we're prepared. And then it's alignment with the other parties, right? With operationalizing it, as Jennifer said. You know, the experience with the CTD might be different than say with a TMC or a consultant who's worked on behalf of a corporation that brought the rates. So, you know, we circle the wagons and make it happen. You know, could happen pretty fast if we get all the parties aligned.
Gotcha.
It's
Excellent.
not it's not like the old days when you had, you know, oh, I'm switching booking tools, you know, it's going to take 6 to 9 months. No.
Right.
In fact, I want to use that transparency word again. I think that's key, because we want to make this frictionless, right? This is not something that the UX, that the traveler needs to be aware of. This should be, you know, just like, you know, the company has a procurement system for buying company laptops for employees, or, you know, having them buy supplies and other things. So it should be transparent. You know, it'd be great if everybody followed the policies, but we know, you know, people like to do things differently. I like to book at hotel sites, you know.
Shame on you, Michael.
Pardon me?
Shame on you.
Yeah, I know. But,
or Traxo's point, okay, Michael, that's fine. We can capture it, right? So I think that
you have to have a partner like Traxo who's going to consume my bookings, you know, through their methodology. Yeah.
But if you think about it, like from my perspective as a buyer, to be like, wait, that's great when all my hotels are booked through my TMC, but on average, 50% are not. How do I guarantee that they're getting those rates? So I think that partnership with Traxo and Smart Hotel Rate is just an added layer of benefit to the buyers, right? So they're able to say, wait, not only am I able to capture the fact that they're booking outside my program, and I can do whatever I want with that information, and every buyer is going to be different. Some's going to say, great, keep doing it. Others are going to say, whoa, it's time for me to do some education inside my program. But you would never have insight into the fact that they booked those incorrect rates or not your corporate rates without Smart Hotel Rate. You're just not going to get that, right? So, you know, once you say, all right, I've captured this program leakage, now did they do the right thing, and can we action that, right? Now, I don't want to sound like Pollyanna about, you know, just life is so easy. You have to have, if you're a buyer, you have to have strong strategic conversations with your TMCs about the importance of the value that they deliver to your program, especially your hotel program, and how important things like Smart Hotel Rate or other sources are to the integrity of what you've done. Nobody wants to waste all the time doing these RFPs knowing that 40% of the time they're not even getting the rates I negotiated for whatever reason, right? And I think the data tells the story. The information that Smart Hotel Rate is capturing has helped me to say, all right, what's really happening here? Is it that the rates aren't available? Is it that I need a better room type, because my travelers don't want to stay in 2 double beds, they want the king bed, so they're booking outside of that standard room type consistently? That tells me maybe I need to be negotiating differently for different room types or whatever it might be. So, you know, I think if we continue to see our programs each as unique and address the challenges that we have in partnering with our hoteliers and our TMCs and a Traxo Smart Hotel Rate, whatever that looks like, to say, all right, here's how we're really solving a problem. And by solving this problem that has been gone on for decades, then we can also solve the problem, create the value, and deliver the savings that we were entitled to in the first place. And I think that's what's super, super important. And that makes that day or two worth of energy that you got to put into implementing something like this, well worth it in my mind.
Gotcha. Excellent. Excellent. So I want to remind everyone that's attending this event, if you have any questions, just type it into either the chat or the Q&A feature in Zoom. So we got one question so far on the topic of booking direct with hotels. So Michael, kind of the scenario that you described, just a refresher, like how do you ensure that a customer receives the best rates from all of their negotiated rates? And that they've added to their booking tool. And maybe, Jen, you want to chime in as well on this question. For a booking directly with a hotel, how would you all answer that question?
Yeah.
Well, can I start with this, Michael? Sorry, because it's two things. So if they're booking direct with the hotel, obviously if Traxo is capturing it and Smart Hotel Rate is comparing your negotiated rates with what they booked, that would be a call out to say they booked at xyz.com at 236, your rate was 199, and you have to decide as a buyer what you're going to do with that information, right? And I think the other piece of it that we can't ignore is sometimes when they book online, they may find a better rate, right, than what you've got in your booking tool. Why do people shop outside your program? They're not shopping to spend more. They're shopping because they're trying to prove that they can find it better, right? So that's okay too. But that data then says, okay, hotel Y, whether you're booking it in the GDS or direct, wherever you're getting that content, if you're continually to undercut my corporate rate, that's a different conversation. But I wouldn't know that unless I was identifying when there were discrepancies to my corporate rate, because sometimes they are less expensive. And now if I say, hey, 80% of the time you're undercutting my corporate rate, what does that tell me as a buyer? That tells me I'm paying too much. And that's a different conversation. So no matter where you're getting the content, being able to compare to what you've negotiated has value, whether it's to save money, like at the point of sale where you're like, okay, let's stop and change the rate and get it right, or whether it's after the fact to say, I need to be negotiating differently.
Michael, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts around this. One is, I guess I shot myself in the foot saying as an independent traveler, I like to book at the hotel.com site, not hotel.com, brand.com. But thinking about that a little further, I thought of a neighbor of mine who works for a certain company I won't name in the financial industry. And if he books outside the program, he won't get reimbursed for his hotel, right? So there's different types of policies and out there. So there's no, one single answer to this, but certainly if Jen or any of our customers find out a certain percentage of bookings are being lost to leakage, and we capture that with our partner at Traxo is even better because now we've got data to support that. It opens up a discussion with the hotel, either at the chain or at the property level. It's at the hotel across the street from the headquarters. We really have to have a discussion with them, or is it at the chain level? So I think that's another aspect. And then, I already mentioned, the partnership with Traxo in terms of capturing the leakage and adding that to all the analytics that we have. So there's that transparency that comes to surface again. And then there's the whole idea of where hotel rates are going. And I keep hearing more and more, certainly some of the larger programs are going to dynamic rates, right? So, this isn't just about where it's booked, it's at what rate. And that's what we want to do proactively before the guest arrives, and have the data for the procurement or travel manager, someone on Jen's team to actually go back to that hotel and say, we need to address this problem.
That's an excellent point on dynamic rates and changing the model a bit. And I've heard as well, last 6 to 12 months, a lot about dynamic rates. And,
right.
One thing I wanted to emphasize is you kind of described the implementation process for Smart Hotel Rate. I just want to make sure the audience understands that the implementation process for Traxo is also a very rapid process. It's not a months or weeks. It's actually, honestly, it's something that If everyone has approved it and we're ready to go, it's a process that can be done actually in half a day. And all future bookings are being captured in your Traxo account. And all future bookings are being shared with your partners like Smart Hotel Rate. And so that's one of the reasons why we're so excited about working with Smart Hotel Rate, is how immediately we can work with the customer to start addressing this problem of visibility, and especially this when it comes to non-agency bookings, identifying those times where they go outside the program and they spend too much. And kind of Jen mentioned that scenario, but also those opportunities where they did find a better deal, and how can you automate the call to action with the hotel and get them into the process and start the communication and the collaboration on resolving an issue that might exist. In our webinars, and we mentioned those webinars at the beginning of this event, especially in our new ebook that I shared about, we covered various vendors and approaches to ensuring you're getting the optimal price. So we highlighted TripBam, we highlighted BTP. Michael, maybe can you share some similarities or differences? People in the audience might see some overlap even with Smart Hotel Rate and these vendors. Can you share a little bit about how kind of on that topic?
Yeah, so there might be some perceived similarities, except I'm going to go back to what I said earlier, right? We want to guarantee, work with the procurement and whoever put together the hotel programs, that the corporation is receiving those negotiated rates. So we're laser focused on that. We're collecting that data, whether it's booked through the agency, OBT, whoever's in that booking process chain. And then we also want to capture those rogue or leakage bookings that we capture with our partner at Traxo, and then wrap it all in, the analytics that empowers all the parties, the hotel, the consultants that put together the program, the TMC that may have helped, whoever put the negotiated rate program together, the procurements, all those parties, that they're looking at live data, so it's actionable data. The other partners that have been on these webinars, there's no reason why we can't work with other technologies, with other partners. That's clearly a perceived benefit. You're going to have programs that are like the example of my neighbor, where he's not going to get reimbursed if he doesn't book the negotiated hotel or through the negotiated, but very, very mandated type of program. And then there's others that are like, Wild Wild West, book with the booking tool, book on your phone. Let's face it, we all look at the trends. The age of the traveler is coming down. People are used to, buying things from Amazon that they could get anywhere. So things are changing. So
there are definitely lots of tailwinds to kind of push, outside of channel bookings.
We're going to stay in our lane, guarantee, work with the corporate rate hotel programs and make sure that those rates are meeting all the thresholds and commitments the buyers make, right? So the corporation gets their rate. We want to help reduce or eliminate leakage, and we want to improve the analytics so you have data that's actionable and valuable.
Matt, do you mind if I just add to this?
No, please do. Please do.
I think, each individual organization needs to look at what are their overall goals for their hotel program, right? Some may be, we just want to drive the lowest cost. We don't care about our negotiations. Some may be, there's a lot of different ways to look at things. I think that the key differentiator and the biggest value or bang for your buck when it comes to Smart Hotel Rate, and it's not a lot of bucks, I'll just call that out there too, is that I can action it immediately. Like, it's not something that I see in a report or a dashboard a month later. I'm getting a live alert in my email or on my dashboard, however I choose to get it, and I can see it, and it has just booked, and I can fix it a lot of times before the traveler's even gotten their invoice or itinerary, right? So I can do this right now, live, like it's happening. Maybe the ticket hasn't even been issued. It's that fast that I'm getting these alerts. And so for me, it's like, wow, I am solving a problem or being alerted of a problem. Like I might see the same hotel all of a sudden, like what's going on with our rates? And like I can fix it before, 6 months later or a year later, when I'm looking at my data for my annual hotel RFP and being like, wow, our average daily rate at that property was a lot higher than this. Well, too late to ask why now, right? We have to figure it out at the time that it's happening. And I think that's the key differentiator, is that it's about being more proactive. So in all the challenges that we've had in the managed travel space in the last 22 months, I think for me, it's always looking at how do I be more proactive in delivering value for my company, not reactive. We can't live in a reactive world anymore. And I think that's just really important and a key differentiator for why, I've had such a successful partnership with Smart Hotel Rate and others, too. So that's just my thought.
Excellent. No, thank you for sharing that. So now that you have all this free time on your hands, because Smart Hotel Rate is doing all this great work for you, and so now that you've launched Smart Hotel Rate, how is your life different? What have you learned, and then what are you looking forward to do next with Smart Hotel Rate? Any new ways you want to use that data? I think you alluded to a few things that you learned just in the implementation process about how ready your rates were to be implemented within their product. Is there anything else?
Yeah, sure. So I learn something new every day, because one of the things I learned is like, what the heck do my travelers think they're doing? Like you can't book that rate. You can't do this. You can't like no, that's not how it works. So I think that insight has been really valuable, and I've learned things like, and this is so simple, but for the traveler, it's just huge. Like in our CTD, we're running, 90% of our business through it. And that includes, EMEA and the UK and stuff. And I will have negotiated a hotel, but I didn't get breakfast. So everybody's booking the slightly higher rate with breakfast. And, so I was like, whoa, we're not changing some of those rates to our corporate rate because the value of the breakfast is greater than the $3 or $5 or whatever a night that we would have had in our corporate rate. But that gives me insight to say, I now know that these are the things that are important at these properties for our travelers. And maybe the rate parity didn't seem like the breakfast was as valuable when we did the sourcing, but now we know for the travelers, that's what matters, right? So I can be more proactive in that. So I've learned a lot of just different really nuances of our travelers and, what perceived value is and stuff. But when it comes to the future of Smart Hotel Rate and our partnership, it's continuing to refine the things that are important to my program, that are unique to my program, because they're not all the same. And how can Smart Hotel Rate help me solve those? Dynamic rates is a big thing. How do we know that we're actually getting our dynamic rates? What do we look at a year into Smart Hotel Rate now? Because we've been working with them, for about a year. We start our sourcing initiative in January. We run off cycle. We run April to March. So it's going to be taking all of that information and just kind of realigning what our managed travel program looks like from a hotel perspective. And how much stinking savings opportunity we would have left on the table had we not had Smart Hotel Rate. End of story. We would have never, ever known what we were missing. So definitely. I like the fact that they're willing to listen. So you're not dealing with this big behemoth organization that's trying to box you in to their way. If I say, you know what, I don't want to see alerts if it's under $5 a night. Like that's just not worth it. But I'm tracking all of those alerts that were under $5 a night, because now if that under $5 a night all of a sudden is $100,000, I might turn that alert off, because now I know that's another $100,000 of savings in my program. So it's things like that. It's being, very flexible and pushing them to say, what about this? What about that? And I think that's one of the things I appreciate as a buyer, is that I have a voice in how Smart Hotel Rate works for me.
Gotcha. Yes.
So it's, echoing what Jen has shared, and what we have expectations with our customers is obviously a substantial ROI. With that, we want to work with changing behavior, so everybody's a good corporate citizen, a good corporate traveler. that the buyers and the procurement, everybody gets kudos for finding the right hotels and negotiating the best rates. And then something we didn't talk much about is, duty of care is not going away either. So, having the safety and security and the savings is always, number one for any travel manager or procurement of travel. But, you want your travelers to stay in your preferred hotels, and obviously they should get the best rate. So we want to know where they are.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for mentioning that. I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, just type it into the chat or the Q&A feature of Zoom. Jen, that's an excellent point about uncovering new insights about the preferences of your travelers. And I can definitely see how that would influence future negotiations with your supplier partners and prioritizing certain, amenities that you discovered. Actually, that's pretty important to my travelers. They look for those types of things that makes their lives easier.
Yeah, and I think now even as we're coming, I don't know if we're coming out of the pandemic, it's every other day, it's something different, but whatever, wherever we are in this pandemic world is, can I stay at a hotel that has breakfast, that I'm not going out, further? It's just little things like that we have to think about. And I think to Michael's point about the duty of care, yeah, if we've sourced and we've scrubbed through all the safety protocols of our properties, we want our people to stay there and ensuring that. So, it's going to evolve. Like, it's not like next year I'll be looking at something a little bit differently because things will be different and changing, but that the ability to change the priorities, I think is important for buyers because they are ever changing. And, hey, look, face it, if we could just get entirely rid of the RFP, yeah, that would be, the world's greatest thing, and we wouldn't have to do that. But that doesn't necessarily make sense in a lot of instances either. So
I can see how it's important just to have clear expectations on, I'm going to give you some business, just make sure that we're going to settle on a price for the exchange of my business to you.
Exactly. And
yeah.
When those revenue managers, to Michael's point earlier, was, the revenue managers, when they negotiate those rates, they want you to book those rates, right? That's what they want, because that's how they do their annual planning. They're going to take so many customers at certain rates and, and in certain amenities. And that's how they're, putting together their P&L for the year. If, if you're not adhering to those things and you want to be a good partner with your hoteliers, that's important to have those conversations with them when the rates aren't there or aren't available or hidden in some display 18 lines down. No one's going to look at that.
I wanted to ask y'all, and I know we're getting close on time, but if you could, take 60 seconds and we've talked a little bit about where TMCs fit in terms of working with Smart Hotel Rate. But I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your opinions and where you see opportunities for Smart Hotel Rate and TMCs to work together.
Yeah.
I'll take that first, Jen, if you don't mind. I mean, clearly TMCs want to find the savings for their corporate customers. So we're another, I don't like using the word tool, but I heard several of them at the recent GBTA. Oh, you're a tool, you're going to help. Yeah, we're going to work with you, the TMC, your corporate customer, and we're going to use everything I keep talking about in terms of the dashboard, to give live data, to the TMC, to the corporate traveler, all the parties. We could totally transparency. You can go right to the hotel or the chain. So I think the TMC, has an opportunity. They have their revenue streams that they're looking for. Some of them, are heavy on the supply side, heavy on the transaction fee or some managed fee. So, that world is changing as well. I keep hearing things about subscription rates or rates based on consumption. So, why be paying for services you don't use? So I think there's definitely, we're talking to several TMCs that will be making announcements, probably right after the first of the year as well, in terms of strong partnerships with leveraging what we have to offer for their corporate customers.
Excellent. Jen, anything to add on where you see Smart Hotel Rate and TMCs should work together?
So TMCs, their value proposition is the ROI on the program. They're there to support your negotiated rates. That's why you hire them to do these things for you. That's why you pay the fees you pay. If you're not getting it and there's no insight into it, then there's a miss there in my mind. It's not hard to operationalize. I think that is something that, someone's like, well, who's going to check all these rates? Well, it's not like you're getting 40 million rates a day. I'm getting 3 or 4 a day, or maybe a couple times a day. I am getting them every day, which is interesting. But you want to make sure that you just have that conversation. Like, why would you not? Okay, let me just say it like this. If you are a TMC and you're doing any sourcing for your customers, or if you're a consulting firm and you're doing a hotel sourcing initiative, why would you not want to be able to say, you pay me X number of dollars to do this for you, and now I can guarantee it, right? Now I can guarantee that you actually get those rates. That wasn't happening before. So why would you not want to be able to say that and add that to your repertoire of why you bring all this amazing value to your corporations, to your customers? It's just a no-brainer to me. And I'm not trying to be Michael, the salesperson for Smart Hotel Rate, but for me, it was like, why would I not do that? Like, why?
Yeah.
It's just such low-hanging fruit with huge value. And I think operationalizing it is not hard. You just have to have the conversations. How does it work? Simply.
Definitely. Yeah. And I wasn't aware how quickly a Smart Hotel Rate can be implemented at a client. And so it's fantastic to hear that. And then how well, from our perspective at Traxo, that the time to going live is measured in days. And people can immediately start learning new insights about their travel program. Excellent. So I wanted to wrap up for today. I'm going to share my screen one more time. First, I wanted to say thank you to our panelists today and all the great insights that they've shared and experience. I hope everyone in the audience has learned something about Smart Hotel Rate, corporate travel, that they can hopefully take back to their program and put in place either now or in the coming months. I've got 2 final messages before we go. First, I want to highlight Smart Hotel Rate. Okay, Michael?
I've got one too. I wanted to make sure we get.
Oh, sure.
Hours. So 'tis the season, the holiday season. So I want to thank Traxo and certainly Jen for all of her input and being a valuable, loyal customer. But to everybody on the webinar today, anyone that wants a complimentary analysis of your program, where it stands today, where you'd like to take it to the future, please reach out. Check out send an email to Michael at smarthotelrate.io, and we'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, some great contact information here on how to contact the team at Smart Hotel Rate. The other thing I want to mention is, again, about our ebook that we are launching. Just a reminder, so this is the end of a 3-part series on price assurance, covering supplier negotiations, rate auditing, and reshopping strategies. I think for her, Neil Hammond over at Gold Spring kind of emphasized that a good strategy to price assurance is thinking about all 3 of these categories as opportunities to deliver savings to your program. So take a look at this ebook. It covers and explains each price assurance strategy in terms of how to put it in place in your organization. What's the travel experience like for the traveler themselves when these are in place? And then goes over partners that we have vetted and investigated that can help you achieve your goals, and then also provide some contact information to reach out to them. So click that link and check it out. And we'd love for you all to check it out. And if you have any questions, certainly reach out to Traxo. Just go to traxo.com, click contact us, and we'd love to chat. So I hope everyone has a great holiday. It has a time to take a break and spend time with their family, take some good pictures, put it on your phone, and you have a great rest of your day. So thank you everyone for your time. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, everyone.